if you can live with the humiliation of, being in something where it's pretty funny.
Jack Nicholson and Dustin Hoffman, two titans who defined American acting, yet seemed to orbit different worlds. One volcanic, the other surgical. One lived behind the mask of madness, the other beneath layers of restraint. For decades, rumors painted them as rivals, mutual respect veiling private resentment. Their paths crossed in backrooms, at parties, in roles that never were.
You guys got to know that this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. Just improvise it.
Now, years later, Nicholson has spoken, finally pulling back the curtain on what really happened between him and Hoffman. Their friendship, their friction, and the truth that stayed hidden for half a century. Two kings of a divided Hollywood. In the 1970s, Jack Nicholson and Dustin Hoffman ruled the same empire, but from opposite thrones. Nicholson was rebellion incarnate, the wild heart of Easy Rider and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Hoffman, fresh off The Graduate and Midnight Cowboy, was the precision craftsman. One thrived on instinct, the other on control. Together they embodied Hollywood's split soul. They emerged from the same artistic revolution, but carried different ideologies. Hoffman, molded in New York under Lee Strasberg's method teachings, treated acting as an excavation, every emotion earned through labor. Nicholson, forged in the Los Angeles underground scene, believed emotion should be liberated, not dissected. Their dual rise created two visions of authenticity that defined 1970s cinema. Hoffman's characters were men suffocating under ordinary pain. Nicholson's burned with defiance. Audiences saw Hoffman tremble through self-doubt, while Nicholson smirked through destruction. It was intellect against instinct, two sides of the same rebellion. During an interview years later, Hoffman reflected on his process, saying, "You don't play the truth, you chase it until it shows itself." Nicholson responded in kind, in a separate interview, calling acting a form of controlled anarchy. If you plan it too much, you kill it. Both philosophies attracted disciples. Young actors at the time often spoke of choosing sides. Some sought Hoffman's discipline, others craved Nicholson's danger.
Few words from my seat at the table, Jack, but I didn't know I was going to follow Kareem.
The industry, meanwhile, watched their subtle rivalry unfold on awards, nights, and at Hollywood dinners. Colleagues described their exchanges as polite, but cool. Two generals saluting across a battlefield neither wanted to claim. Even without a shared film, their energy was inseparable. Critics constantly compared them, pairing Hoffman's psychological depth with Nicholson's magnetic chaos. In a 1978 profile, Rolling Stone wrote, "Nicholson acts like he's living his last night on Earth. Hoffman acts like he's still rehearsing for it." It was a line that captured their entire contrast, one consuming the moment, the other studying it. By the end of the decade, both had redefined the craft. Hoffman gave emotion structure, Nicholson gave it freedom. Together they did not compete for the same crown. They reshaped what royalty in American cinema meant, the film that never found harmony. Behind closed doors, there was once talk of a film that would have united them, a psychological duel between two broken men. Studio heads dreamed of the energy, but Nicholson reportedly turned it down after reading the script Hoffman wanted to reshape. For Nicholson, Hoffman's obsession with detail felt suffocating. For Hoffman, Jack's spontaneity felt reckless. The script, according to those close to both actors, was raw, a tense exploration of guilt and rivalry between two men at the edge of madness. It was written in the wake of Taxi Driver and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, in an era where moral ambiguity was art's new language. Hoffman saw potential for something profound, a study of identity and regret. Nicholson saw a trap, a story buried under too much introspection. Meetings stretched over months. Hoffman wanted rewrites, insisting that truth required layers of rehearsal and emotional excavation. Nicholson wanted to move fast, capturing the volatility that made his performances erupt off-screen as much as on. Their creative philosophies, already known across Hollywood, clashed before the first scene was even rehearsed. "If we spend half the year talking about it," Nicholson quipped privately, "we'll forget how to feel it." Hoffman's counterpoint, shared years later, carried its own conviction. You don't find the character by accident. You earn him. Executives were divided. Some favored Hoffman's depth, others Jack's unpredictability. The director, an Oscar winner himself, was forced to play referee between two visions that refused to bend.
Which did you prefer? take fame.
The project eventually collapsed under the weight of its own expectations. Neither star publicly commented, but crew members recalled that the room felt charged, like everyone knew we were watching history that couldn't happen twice. In later interviews, Hoffman would call the unmade film a beautiful disaster waiting to happen. Nicholson, smiling through a haze of cigarette smoke, summed it up differently. Some chemistry's too strong for the camera. The movie that never happened became legend, a ghost of possibility that proved sometimes art's greatest stories exist only in the tension between two minds too powerful to share the same frame. The war between method and madness. Their rivalry wasn't personal at first, it was artistic. Hoffman, trained in the method, dissected every breath of his characters. Nicholson, meanwhile, believed truth emerged only when you let go. Their philosophies collided on set visits, panels, and even in interviews where one's process became the other's punchline. It was a silent debate on how far art should hurt. Hoffman was a product of discipline, the actor's studio, Lee Strasberg, and the belief that every emotion should be earned through immersion. He would live as the character, breathe his fears, study his gestures until nothing was left but the role. Nicholson could not stand the idea of control as a cage. He thrived on chaos, believing instinct, not study, was the gateway to truth. When Hoffman once said, "If you aren't living the pain, you're only pretending to feel," it became a manifesto for method actors across Hollywood. Nicholson's reply years later cut from the opposite philosophy. Acting isn't therapy, it's play. If you hurt too much, you stop seeing the scene. Their disagreement wasn't spiteful, it was philosophical. Two masters trying to define the line between authenticity and obsession. Directors who had worked with both described it as night and day. Hoffman could demand 20 takes, perfecting each pause until it landed like poetry. Nicholson preferred the first or second, capturing whatever lightning appeared before overthinking killed it.
Something to watch him work, you know. I mean, I always feel I have a very private slant on him anyway.
To Hoffman, Jack's looseness felt reckless. To Jack, Hoffman's perfectionism looked like fear. Their tension mirrored a deeper question in Hollywood: was art about control or surrender? Despite their differences, they shared one rare quality: total commitment. Hoffman respected Jack's ferocity. Nicholson respected Dustin's nerve. Hoffman once admitted privately, Jack could make standing still feel dangerous. Nicholson, for his part, told a friend, "Dustin works like he's in surgery, and somehow the patient always lives." They were two craftsmen fighting the same war with different weapons, discipline against instinct, precision against fire. And through that contrast, they shaped what American acting would become, an art form caught forever between madness and control. The night tension broke in Hollywood. Hollywood whispers still recall one infamous evening in the late 1970s. A rap party, a room filled with smoke, and two icons locked in a verbal sparring match about acting truthfully. Witnesses said it ended not with rage, but with silence. Hoffman left first. Nicholson stayed, laughing quietly to himself, like a man who had just seen through the game. The night has become legend in Hollywood memory. A collision not of fists, but of philosophies.
I go to work, I take the best script that's around, and that was the best script around.
The party took place after a major studio release, one attended by nearly every star of the decade. Champagne, cigarette haze, and the kind of arrogance that only comes with success filled the air. Hoffman arrived fresh from a triumph, still immersed in his latest character. Nicholson was in full command of his own myth. Dark glasses on indoors, grin sharp as a blade. The conversation began lightly, about process and craft, until someone asked which method captured truth better, preparation or chaos. Hoffman, never one to deflect, defended the emotional rigor of the method. Nicholson, amused, called it overcooked sincerity. The tone shifted. What began as a friendly debate became a clash of temperament, precision against instinct, theater against cinema. According to those present, Hoffman challenged Nicholson directly, saying, "If you don't dig deep, you're just guessing at honesty." Nicholson, unshaken, smiled and said, "Guessing's what makes it fun." The room fell quiet. A few laughed nervously, unsure if they were witnessing genius or insult. Hoffman's face tightened, but he said nothing more. Within minutes, he left the party. Nicholson stayed, leaning back with a cigarette, muttering something that only those nearest heard. Truth's just another kind of performance. To some, it was arrogance. To others, revelation. The story spread quickly through Hollywood. Some said it marked the end of their fragile respect, others that it deepened it. What is certain is that after that night they were never seen in the same room again, and yet both men carried something from it, a reflection of themselves in the other, two mirrors facing each other, infinite and impossible to reconcile. The truth Nicholson finally revealed. Years later, when asked about Hoffman, Nicholson surprised everyone. He did not mock him, he admired him. He called Hoffman one of the few who never blinked. The old tension had turned into understanding. Both men had fought for authenticity, just in opposite ways. And in that contrast, Nicholson finally found respect for the rival who mirrored his own devotion. The question came during an interview years after both had already cemented their legacies. The host asked if he ever regretted not working with Hoffman. For a moment, Nicholson paused. His grin faded, replaced by something quieter. He said, "Dustin, he was a surgeon. Me, I was more of a gambler. We were both chasing the same truth, just taking different roads." It was the kind of reflection few expected from Hollywood's most unpredictable man. That honesty changed the story. For decades, fans had speculated about animosity, assuming their creative divide was personal. But Nicholson made it clear. It was never about hatred, only the pursuit of art. He spoke about watching Kramer versus Kramer, saying Hoffman's performance made the audience feel something real without showing his hand. It was the same kind of depth Nicholson sought through chaos, a harmony found through contradiction. Those who knew them both said their mutual respect grew quietly in their later years. Hoffman reportedly attended a private screening of About Schmidt and told a friend, "Jack found stillness. That's harder than rage." Both men, once symbols of intensity, had grown into artists who valued restraint as much as release. In retrospect, Nicholson's praise wasn't just about Hoffman, it was about reconciliation with himself. He had spent a lifetime defying structure, while Hoffman had mastered it. Yet time softened the divide. Both had proven that acting, in its purest form, is about vulnerability, the willingness to be seen without armor. The truth Nicholson finally revealed wasn't a confession of rivalry, but of kinship. Two men who once spoke different artistic languages realized in the end they had been telling the same story all along. That truth on screen, however you find it, is the most dangerous and the most beautiful thing to chase. Jack Nicholson and Dustin Hoffman were never true rivals, only reflections of two sides of the same art. One built chaos into beauty, the other carved beauty out of chaos. Their story was not about conflict, it was about conviction, how two men, through opposite means, tried to capture something that cannot be faked, truth. Each challenged the other's idea of what acting should be, and in doing so, redefined what it could become. Hoffman gave discipline its soul. Nicholson gave instinct its freedom. Together they embodied the eternal struggle between control and surrender, method and madness, stillness and fire. Time turned tension into respect, and rivalry into legacy. Because in the end, truth does not belong to one actor or one approach, it belongs to whoever dares to feel it. Which moment surprised you most? Share your thoughts below, and subscribe for more stories from Hollywood's hidden history.